Hello, welcome to the video. You came here to learn Minecraft commands, and I'm going to show you it. Every single one that was ever made in Minecraft, all of them, and I'm going to show you them right now. We're going to have 3 levels because obviously some of them can be pretty complicated. Level 1, let's go. So, starting off with level 1, before we get started, I'm going to have to show you command blocks because why am I talking like this? So, command blocks. So, to get started, say /give your name, or you could do @s, which we'll talk about later as well, a command block, and then you'll get one. I'll place it on the ground, and then you can, if you click on it, you can see here you got a bunch of options. I'm gonna go over the basics and we'll get, wow, I can't speak. We'll go over the basics right now, and then I'll get more complicated as we go because we're on level 1. Block type impulse. We're gonna put a command in here, which I'll show you in a second. I'm gonna have it say ASDF. If I press it, it says ASDF. Repeat though. If I press it, it gonna repeat for a little bit of time. It does what it says. Impulse does it once, repeat does it basically forever. The reason why I didn't do forever is because it needs redstone. It did it for as long as it was active, as long as that button was pressed. Now if I do it always active, it gonna do it forever, like I was saying. What's the point of the chain, you may be asking? Well, let's add another one. Let's add another command onto this. Now what you do is you can add commands onto commands. You set it to chain, and these commands are now linked. Let's have the first one say E, the second one say A. This is another condition thing that I'll talk about later. We're not going to go over that right now. You want chain commands to usually be always active. I don't think you're going to ever have an instance where it's going to be needs redstone. If you press this, it'll repeat and say EA a bunch of times. See that? And you can do this with any commands in the game. That's just a very basic example. So now some level 1 basic commands. We have the fancy /time. If we do /time and you do set today, it is set today. And then if you do /time set night, look at that, set to night. That's pretty crazy. Also, there's the add. So you can add time. You can add 1,000 and it'll go deeper into the night. You can add -1,000. It'll go reverse in time. And we got next up, weather. Clear. Clears the weather. Weather, this is very basic by the way. Weather, rain. Obviously we'll set it to rain. There goes the Enderman. In the description I'll also have a list of the different levels, so if you want to skip to the more complicated levels, please do. Next up we have the /say, so you can have yourself say whatever to all the people in the game. Now this is very useful with a command block. Now like I had earlier, I had myself say hi, or I said random things. If you click on a command block, it has that little exclamation mark, which is very not useful. What you can do is you can go in here and name the command block. Let's call it server. I can see it names it, but if you press it, now it suddenly says, the server says hi. So this can be very useful for like announcements and stuff. Server restart in 5 mins. There you go. Now you have a cool announcement that you can have like on repeat, or have like announce whenever you want. Next up, we have something similar to /say, which is /tell. You can tell a specific person, and then that I didn't tell myself anything, but you can obviously put a message in there. It's kind of like it's whispering, so you can tell people secrets and stuff. You can have command blocks to do it as well, just like in here. And if you notice, I'm not actually putting the /. So instead of doing /say hi, you can just do say hi. It's just a little bit easier, especially when typing on a controller or something. Next up, we got /list. The most basic command in the game, just tells you how many players there are online. We have /kill to kill any entities, including players. And one of the most powerful things in the game is to kill @E, which kills everything. Entities, players, anything that's like in the game that can move, they're all dead. They just die. And next we have /help, which could be the most useful command. It basically lists all of the commands in the game if you forget one. And after that, obviously we have /gamemode. You can set yourself to any of the ones, and then shortcuts. Instead of doing creative, you can just do C, A for adventure, S for survival, and game mode D is default. So whatever the default game mode is, if you go to settings, whatever your default game mode is, if I set it to survival here, go back to creative, did game mode D, I would be set back to survival because that's the default game mode right now. There's also /difficulty, which you can set the difficulty to whatever you want. Easy, hard, peaceful. Clear will clear the inventory of people. So you can clear yourself, you can clear other players. Also, if you just do /clear, it'll clear yourself by default. You can do toggledownfall, which is an easy way to set rain and set off rain instead of doing /weather rain, which is a little bit longer. You can simply toggle the downfall. Doing setworldspawn, you can change where people spawn. Now, You can also type in a coordinate. So if you don't want it to be where you're standing, if you just do /setworldspawn, it'll set the world spawn where you're standing. But you can also set it anywhere by typing in a coordinate. I just set the world spawn to 100, 15, and 100. So if someone were to enter the game right now, they would suffocate because they're probably going to be in a bunch of blocks. Also, there's the setmaxplayers, which you can change the number of players that can enter the game. By default, that is 8 players, and you can go up to 30. So now I set the max players to 30. If I try to do like 100, it would bound it to the maximum, which is 30. Never mind, it's 40 now. When did they up that? What the heck? That's crazy. It used to be 30. Bruh. The last command for level 1 is /locate, which you can use this in if you want to cheat in a survival game, or if you want to just be creative and locate something. You can locate any structure, and obviously things that are in different dimensions, it will not let you do that. And you can actually toggle it so you can only do it in new chunks. So basically, if you set it true, it'll only locate ones that are that haven't been explored. So if you've been in that chunk already, it won't test for that one, which is nice for exploring. Like if you found a shipwreck, it won't do that shipwreck ever again. It'll only do ones that haven't been found yet, pretty much. Now we're going to go on to the next set of commands, which is going to be level 2. A little bit more complicated, but it's not as complicated as level 3. Let's go. So first up, we got the /xp. So this one, you can just do /xp the amount. So let's say I want to give myself 100 XP, and you can give it to anything, any player. Now the way XP works is each level requires a certain amount of XP, but the higher levels require more XP than the lower levels. So for example, if I were to kill myself and go back to level 0, and if I do /xp 10 for me, you can see I instantly go up to level 1, and I'm a little bit like halfway, almost halfway to level 2. Giving myself another one, it gives me 1 level. It's going a little bit less. Now you can see as I keep giving myself levels, each level will require more and more XP. So that one didn't even give me 1. So you can see that one was like a portion of the 6th level. So what I'm trying to get at is if you keep giving experience, say I gave myself 1000 XP. If I gave myself 10 XP now as like a reward for a dungeon or something, that's like nothing. It's gonna give, I have to complete that dungeon like 15 times before I level up. So an easy roundabout for this, if you want a person to level up every time, is doing L after it. That means it's a level, not experience. Now if I do L, I'm gonna get a level every time, not experience. I'm gonna go 31, 32, guaranteed every single time. You can do the reverse. You can also put a negative in front to go down. 32, 31. So something that is useful for like giving negative XP, you might be asking, why would I give someone negative XP? Well, you could use this for like a cap, you know, like preventing players from having a certain amount of XP. Say you want players to have no more than like 30 XP. After they get that max, you remove it. Or you can make a thing where like you turn XP into like money or something. So next up, we have the /TP. Now you can use this for multiple different things, lots of different ways to do it. So you can TP to people, players. You can also teleport to coordinates. I just teleported to 111. You can also TP other people to other places. So if there's like another player in the game, you could teleport that other person to another person, which in this case, I'm teleporting myself to myself. And another cool thing is you can also check for blocks. So say I wanted to teleport to 111, but also check for blocks, which means if there's a block in the way, it won't teleport me. Prevents people from teleporting to places using commands, but accidentally TPing into a spot that would kill you. So if I do that, it's unable to teleport me because there was an area, the area was full of blocks. And another cool thing is you can use the facing command, which is basically it'll TP you to that area facing another entity or player or something. If you have like an armor stand or something set up, you can have the person facing that armor stand when they TP, or they could even be facing a coordinate. I could be TPing the 150 0 facing 110. What I should be doing is I should be facing down. And you can see that I am currently facing down. Okay, next up is the /title command. So what this does is it can display things on player screens. First up, you want to do a person, select a person, and then you can choose any of these options. So you can do action bar, which if you do that, it'll display it in the action bar area, which is right there. You can also do title, which is the big thing in front of your screen, that area right there. And those are the main two ones. There's also subtitle, which if you do subtitle, it'll actually won't show up right away unless you have the title already displayed like it is right there. So a good way to do this using maybe commands or something is you want to make the subtitle first, and then after that you display the title. Basically that subtitle there will stay, until a title is displayed, and then it'll display the subtitle underneath. So you could set it up so that if a player was to show that, you'd display the subtitle saying like to the world, and then the title will be welcome. So it'll end up saying welcome to the world or something like that. Now, some other things you can do is you can have a fade in and a fade out so that you can make it last longer. So you can do is have it fade in, stay for like another 100 ticks, and then fade out for 100 ticks. And then if I did another title, it would take a long time to come in. I shouldn't have done 100. This is a great example. I did way too long. 100 is going to be like 100 seconds. It's going to take forever for this thing to show up. So what you can do, if you messed up, you can just do title, the person, clear. So now it's going to stop showing up for me so that I don't end up waiting here for 15 years for this title thing to show up in front of my face. You can also do title reset to kind of just reset everything. So any fades, any titles that are currently on your face, anything, it'll just reset everything. Now, before we get into the next command here, I'm going to go over the at selectors so that we can talk about the next commands more in depth. So if I were to do title here, you can see those 5 options right there: at A, at E, at P, at R, and at S. At E is all entities, which targets everything that's an entity in the game: players, armor stands, cows, pigs, spiders, item frames, anything that's an entity in the game. And if you don't know if something is an entity or not, you can always just honestly Google it. Next up, we have at A, all players. I believe I went over that already, just targeting all players online in the game. You can also do at P, which is the closest person, which currently would be me. And then you can do at R, which is a random person online in the game, and at S, which is yourself. Also, if you want to know how to target offline players, that is how you target offline players. There's a lot of cool things you can do with that. Basically, what that is an asterisk. Okay, so I'm actually on TraizelCraft Bedrock Edition here, and I wanted to show you guys an example of using the offline players. So this command right here, these little commands, this tests for if a player is online, and then it'll trigger these commands if anybody joins or leaves the game. And what this does, these 4 things right here, is it TPs anybody that's joining the game to spawn. So when you join the game for the first time, or just join the game anytime, you will start and spawn. You won't start where you left off. You'll start and spawn. And you can see right here, it's targeting this asterisk, which basically it resets the scoreboard of reset of all offline players, or the scoreboard is called L. So once you go offline, you actually won't have that scoreboard anymore. And then what it does is it gives it back to you. And then basically it says like, if you didn't have the scoreboard, TP to spawn. And it's pretty cool how that works. Now, the next command I'm going to do is going to be /testfor, which actually tests for any entity in the game. Now, this can be used in multiple different ways. You probably are thinking like, why is this useful? There's lots of different ways you can use this and lots of different reasons you'd use this, especially when it comes to conditional commands, which I will tell you guys about in a bit. But like, for example, if I wanted to test for at E, it would find all the entities in the game, and you could put that into a command block and then make a conditional command, chain conditional always active, and then if it tests for something, you could do something extended, blah blah blah, all that kind of fancy stuff. Next up, we got testforblock, which is just like testfor, except for instead of testing for an entity or a player, it is simply testing for a block. So you could test for a block at 1 1 1, and you're testing to see if it's a stone block. And then the next one is testforblocks, plural. So basically I placed these 2 blocks here, and with testforblocks, we actually do an area, and then the next coordinate would be a single block. So you can see here testforblocks. I believe it was -32, 4, 4, and 0. And if you see that, they're not identical, because obviously this square is a lot bigger than this square. Now if I did this and I compared, and if I press enter, you can see 1 block compared. So you're probably asking yourself, how is this different? The main difference is in testforblock, you're basically just testing a block in a specific coordinate to see if it exists. So you can see you successfully found an air block. So that means an air block exists there. Now what this testforblocks does is you're comparing 2 different blocks compared to the testforblock, which is just seeing if it exists. So this is very useful for cases such as like comparing chests. Now, why would you compare chests? Maybe this chest has dirt in it, this chest has a button in it. If I were to compare these 2 chests, they actually wouldn't be the same, because the testforblocks still compares their data inside, what's inside of the chests. So if I were to do the testforblocks command, it would not come out as the same. You could use this for like shops, commands to test if things are the same. Like if someone make a command, once someone puts a piece of dirt in here, something will happen and test if these are the same. Once these are the same, clear this chest and then maybe give them some money or reward or something for putting the piece of dirt in the chest. You know, there's a lot of things you can do with that command. Now obviously I can give you an example, multiple examples of what you can do with these commands, but I'm showing you guys every single command in the game. This would be like a 90-minute video if I showed you like examples on every single command. Okay, so next we have /summon, which basically this thing will just summon an entity. So if I did summon cow, and then you would type in a coordinate, or you can do where you are. So if you just did summon cow, it would summon a cow right where you're standing. You can also do coordinate 150. You can just do 1, 150, 1, and the dude is gonna start falling. Am I going the right direction? Yeah, there he is. Goodbye. You can also assign a attribute to it. So for example, if I did /summon wolf and then I did a coordinate and then become angry, now you can see this dude for some reason is not angry. Okay, anyways. So yeah, honestly, if you do an event that doesn't work on an entity, it just won't do it, it looks like. Okay, so the next one is going to be /spawnpoint. You can assign this to a person, an entity. You can send it to multiple entities, actually players specifically, and you can do a location. If you just did while you're standing, it'll do it while you're standing, but you can also do a location. Now what I just did with the @a, I set every person online in the game, I set their spawn point to 100, 150, 100, and next time we die, we'll spawn way up there. So the next one is going to be setblock, which honestly this should probably have been in level 1, but it's not. So we're going to setblock 151, and we're going to do emerald block. Basically what this does is it sets a block wherever you tell it to, and you can do any block. You can do basic blocks, you can also do like stairs, you can do fence gates, like you can do any block in the game, you can set it. Another really useful thing for obviously this is setting it to air, because obviously when you send something to air, it goes away as if it was broken. The next ones are going to be the /op and the /deop. So obviously just what you think it is, if you op somebody, they become operator and they can use commands like I am doing right now. They can break blocks, they can bypass things, anything that you can do in your op. And if you do deop, you become deopped. And for some reason I can deop myself even though I am the host, but whatever. The next one is /mobevent. What these do, these control the events, which right now there's mainly just 3: ender dragons, pillager patrols, and wandering traders. You can toggle any of them on or off by selecting that one and then doing true or false. Also, you can target all of them by doing events enabled, true or false. And if you set to false, none of those will ever happen. The next one's going to be /camerashake, which is really cool for like doing adventure maps and survival maps and stuff. Let's say you wanted to do /camerashake add the person. You can also do any of those selectors, selecting like multiple players and stuff. Then you can do with the intensity. Say I wanted to do like 5 for 2 seconds. And you can do positional or rotational. That's just the visuals that it'll look like. And you can see 5 apparently is too big, so we'll do 2. And oh my gosh, for 2 seconds, yeah, that's so like you can like simulate like an earthquake, or like when something big happens in the game, you can like have everybody camera shake or something, just to, like make it look scary or ominous or cool, you know. Next up is the immutable world, which honestly is pretty interesting. Basically, if you have a world that's like polished or finished, you can set immutable world to true. Basically, everything and anything in the game can't be broken unless you're opt. So if I was somehow de-opt, I don't think this is gonna work. Oh, it does work. Cool. So even though I'm in creative right now, I can open chests, but I cannot break blocks, even though I am straight up in creative. The next one is the game rule command, which can control a lot of the game rules in the game. You can see there's a lot of different options, and you can turn any of these on or off. You can honestly look through these and they kind of explain what they do. For example, do daylight cycle, turn it to true or false. If you have a true, day will go by, false will not. You can do fire damage, people will take fire damage, do fire tick. That means if you light something on fire, it'll spread. You can turn that on or off. There's lots of things you can change and manipulate to make your world how you want it to be. Next one is /fill, which is honestly a very interesting command you can use to like build things faster. So for example, if I wanted to do 1, 5, 1, and then -5, 10, -5, you can do dirt. And you can see that thing just filled up with dirt. There's a couple more things you can do. If you add the title ID, now what a title ID is, if I did like something that can change colors, for example, wool. If I just did wool, it'd be white by default. But a title ID or block ID, whatever, tile ID is what I was trying to say. Sorry, not title. By default, it's always 0. But if I did like 1, it would change the color. Basically, the tile ID is going to be the color, the type, whatever it's going to be tied to. Usually it's the color if it's a block. Once you type that, if you just want it to be what it normally is, just do 0. And then after that, you have these 5 options: destroy, hollow, keep, outline, and replace. And the one I use the most is replace, but we'll go through each one. Destroy will destroy any blocks that are destroyed. So if I replace this wool with, say, stone, all of that green wool that's replaced will get destroyed and dropped on the floor. Very useful in many different cases, honestly. You can do hollow, which it looks the same, but actually it's not, because it just hollowed it out. Now it's a little box. So now keep and outline, I actually don't know what they do, because they I've done a lot of testing with them, and I've tried to figure out what they do. They kind of just make a box, and if they replace blocks, I can't figure out what they do. They don't destroy them, they don't do much. However, the replace one is very interesting. Let's say I had this stone, but I had some wool in there. You know, I had like a structure, like a build you made that's, you know, obviously made of different blocks. Your builds aren't going to be made of the same block. At least it shouldn't be. And let's do that. So let's say I wanted to get rid of this wool, but I wanted to keep the stone because I like the stone. So what you can do is you can do fill with air and then do 0, replace wool, and I believe it's 15. I believe you can just do wool and it'll still do it. Wool, if you just do wool, you don't do the tile ID, it'll do every single type of wool. So there you go. Now it only replaced wool and ignored every other type of block. Next up is the /clone command, which you want to start out by doing a coordinates. Let's do this one, this chest. And then you pick a different coordinate. Let's do right here. And then you want to do the second coordinate, the first coordinate twice. Now the reason you do that is because you can see it says in the description begin and end. Basically, you can clone an entire area. You can clone a giant structure in somewhere in a different destination if you want, which I'll show you in a second. But for this instance, I'm just cloning a chest, which I'll show you why in just a second. So -32, that same coordinate, and then I'm putting it over here. And see, it's right there. I typed that coordinate wrong, but it still has all the diamonds. So if you clone a chest, it'll keep everything that's inside, which is very useful for a lot of different cases. Now, obviously you can do structures. So let's say I wanted to change that command a little bit. Instead of doing 9, let's do 1. Now you can see it does that entire little stack there. And for the last command of level 2, we have the /enchant command, which you can pick multiple people, any of the selectors, or just a single person, and you can pick an enchant, and then you can pick the level. But the level can't be more than the default vanilla Minecraft. So you can't enchant something with sharpness 1000 because the max is 5. And obviously the enchants won't work unless you're holding an item that can be enchanted. So it didn't work because I wasn't holding a sword. Now if I do it again, I'll get looting 3. Okay, that was level 2. Now if you thought those were complicated, get ready, because here comes level 3. First off, we got /titleRaw. Now this one, you can pick a target and you can do just like /title, except it's raw. Now what that means is you would use JSON format, and you can do a lot of cool things with it. It's a lot cleaner. It looks a lot cleaner than doing like /title or /message. And then the next one is /tellraw, which is like /titleRaw, except for it's going to show in your chat. So it'll show up here in your chat messages, and it'll look a lot nicer. So if I were to do like /message me this, it always has that stupid like Traizel whispers to you, blah, 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 but it'll just be the message. It looks a lot nicer. So if you could ever like figure out how to use titleRaw or tellraw, it's always preferred. It looks a lot more professional, a lot nicer. So the next one is a little bit more complicated. It's /tickingarea. Now, before I talk about that and get into it, I'm gonna have to explain how ticking areas work. The best way to explain that is to place a command block way over here. In default Minecraft, there's always a ticking area, at least on Bedrock, around every player, every online player, within, I don't remember the radius. If I were to make this repeating, always active, give it like a delay, so it's not super annoying of like 10. Now if I were to start moving away from it, eventually my ticking area would come out of the radius of it. Eventually the command block is gonna go out of my radius. And eventually, basically how it works is anything that's not in a player's ticking area is frozen. It doesn't work in the game, it's frozen. If an animal out there was out of my ticking area, it wouldn't be doing anything, it'd be frozen. Once I come back into the ticking area, there you go, it starts again. So what you can do is you can make manual ticking areas, say like in a commands area where you want commands to always be running. And what will happen is that even if a player leaves that area, the commands will still be going, which is very useful. So I could do /tickingarea add, and usually I would do get the coordinates from like here to here, and then I will get them and I'll add them. But for now, just to make it easier, I will do circle because it's just a single command block. And I'll get the coordinate, which looks like they do it for me. And then you do the radius in chunks. The radius is in chunks. One chunk is 16 by 16 blocks. Do one radius, which would be at least in this, where this command block is, and then you name it. And there you go. There's one ticking area in use. So anything in this area will always be active, even if I go a million blocks away. Now, before I get into this next set of commands, I'm gonna have to talk to you guys about selectors more in depth, because yes, you can do title at A, but there's actually a lot more you can do with it. So let's say I wanted to, in an area, or have a command that gives them XP a little every once in a while, but it was only people in that area. But what you do is you do like this little bracket thing, and now you have all these options to mess with. So for example, in this specific example, we're gonna do a range, which is R, and then you set the range equal to the distance. Or let's just do 10 blocks. And now anybody within a range of 10 blocks of me, because I ran the command, is gonna get 10 experience every single time I run this. So if someone was next to me, like 2 blocks away from me, they would get it. If someone was 9 blocks away from me, they would also get that 10 experience. If someone was 15 blocks away, they would not. Now, I'm not gonna go over every single one because there's a lot. If you do want to learn about these, I can make a video on these in the future. There's also, obviously a wiki, Minecraft. You can go to minecraft.com, learn about these. I'll go over the basics of the most common ones. L is obviously for level. You can, test for, like you remember how I was saying earlier, how the test for could be useful. Test for at A, maybe with a level of 1. Is there anybody with a level of 1 in the game? No. What if there was? You can make a command, test for at A L equals 1. What if there's somebody, maybe you want to do XP negative 1 L, and then, oh, that's an S. We'll just say L equals 1, and then give them some money or something, or give at A L equals 1 and diamond. Now, with that being said, we're going to go into the next command, which is /tag. Now, this is, you can do a lot of things with tags. So you can tag multiple people with the selectors. Like I said, let's say I want to tag at A range equals 10, add test, and you can name it anything you want. So I just added myself and anybody that would have been in 10 blocks of me to the test tag. Now, what we can do with that is you can use that tag to target people. So now later on, if people with that tag, you can target them. So maybe test for at A tag equals test. It should find me. Now I can make another copy of this and say, I don't know, bruh. Look at that, found me. No targets from that selector. It did not find anyone in the game with the tag of bruh. Now you can do a lot of things with this. You can run any of those commands that have selectors. Title at A, TP at A. You can just add the tag, and anybody with that tag will be affected. It's very powerful. Next up, we have probably one of the most powerful commands in the game, /scoreboard. Now this command allows you to make what are called scoreboards and add people, players, or entities, or really anything to those scoreboards, and kind of do something similar to tags, but you can do a lot more with it too. Now that probably sounds like a lot, but first of all, you have to create a score. So scoreboard objectives is a list of all the scoreboards you have. You can do add, list, remove. But if you do add, let's just do test and dummy, and then you can set the display, which actually, basically if you set the display, this is what it's going to show up as. Even though it's called tests, I can set it display, yeah. Now that I created it, I can add people to it. So scoreboard players, add, and then you see that asterisk there, you can add offline people, Traizel, test, and then this is where we have the value. So I just gave myself 10 value in the test. And this is where you can do cool things like have ranks, have money, a lot of different things with this, scores for like a game. So now for this, you can do like test for at A scores equal, and then you want to do this little bracket thing here, test equals 10. So now what this is doing is it's testing for anyone in the game with a test score of 10. There we go, it found me. But if I did like 11, it's not going to find anybody because I have 10. Now there's a lot of things you can do with this. If you want to learn how to make a shop using scoreboards, I have a video on that. There's like, oh, geez, there's so many things you can do with it. Ranks, I have a video on ranks, banks. So if I did scoreboard players, add me test 1, now I'm 11. So now if you test for 11, there you found me. So one example of something you could do. So you had a scoreboard for money. You could test using that exact command I just showed you. Test if somebody is at like 150, say the thing they're buying costs 150. Then you could do another command using conditional. Conditional basically means if the command before it is true, then do this one. If they have a score of 150 in money, if that's true, then do this one. If it's false, this won't even happen. Well, what you can do is you can then give that person with 150 money, the closest player, in a range of 10, an apple. Maybe that's what they're buying, I don't know. And after that, you want to remove their score. So you can do scoreboard so that they can't keep buying it. You have to take their money. Scoreboard players remove test or person test 150, and I'm at 139. Technically, you could go negative. A good test for that is to do scoreboard players test. Now, just to make sure that they have enough money and they can actually take the money and that they won't go negative. You could test. Now that's confusing. The score is called test. Scoreboard players test Traizel in the score of maybe random. If I am between 10, or if it costs 150, you want to do between 150 and like a lot of money, because if you had like $1,000, that would be enough money too. Now, if I tested for myself, it would be fine. So you do that in the first one, give me the apple, and then remove $150 using scoreboard players remove Traizel random 150. Now I'm back to 0. Another very useful tool and a tip for scoreboards is you can actually set scores to things that aren't entities. So like, for example, you saw that I obviously added random and test to me, like 10 and 150. We can actually add scores to things that aren't even entities. Like, for example, Jeff isn't an entity. He's not a block. He doesn't even exist in the game. He's just a name. I'm gonna give him 150. So now this thing named Jeff has 150. Now what could you use with that? You could use it for testing in like a system or something. You could set it for like a default money. Jeff is like the default maximum amount of money. If someone has more money than Jeff, take away that money and set it to 150. You could do a lot of things with it. Next is the /replaceitem. So you can do with this is you can pick a block, which usually would be something like a chest or like a shulker box or something. Anything that people can put things in, or you can do an entity like a player, and you can replace anything that they're wearing or anything in their inventory with something else. So say I wanted to replace my slot.armor.chest, so my chest plate, with, and you press 0 here because that's just what it requires. I don't think you can do any more than 0 with diamond chest plate. I think if you do anything else, I won't let you, but we can check that. So now suddenly I'm wearing a diamond chest plate because it replaced it. Let's say I wanted to replace this grass block or what I'm holding with something else. You could do slot dot, I think it's main hand, weapon.main hand with, I don't know, an egg. Now I'm holding an egg. So it's really, there's a lot of things you can do with that. It's really cool. Honestly, I'm not even gonna give any examples because there's a lot of things you can do with the /replaceitem. You can also do with chests. Like I said, if you can do entity, you do entity, then, sorry, not entity, block. Do a coordinate where the block is gonna be, and then you can replace any, and then this 0 here is gonna be what slot it is. The first slot in the inventory, it's gonna be 0, and it'll go up to whatever it is. If you go over here, this slot right here is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way up to, I believe it's gonna be 26, because it'll be 27 slots in the chest. And then you can pick one, replace it with anything, which is very cool. You can use that to clear ender chests. For example, if with a player, there is slot.ender chest, you could just replace all of their stuff with air, 0 through 26. And now, before we get into the last command, I'm gonna have to explain one thing, which is this. So if I do /TP, those little squigglies, what are they? Basically, if I were to do /TP, I'm gonna stay where I am. Now what those squigglies are is it's in reference to where you are or whatever's executing the command. So since I'm typing the command in, it's in reference to where I am. So it's gonna, if I do that, that's just where I am. Now if I do, so you can see this is X, Y, and Z. If I do this, that's gonna be same in the X, 1 positive in the Y, and same in the Z. So I should go up 1 block because I'm gonna go up 1 positive in the Y. You can see that there. If I go -1, I should go down 1. If I go up 1 and 5 positive in the X, I'll go way over there. This is very useful if you like know the position of things in reference to where you are, whatever the command block is. You can, instead of typing in the actual coordinate, you can just use the squigglies. For example, if I wanted to place a block right there, I could do set block redstone block, and then you can do this. So basically these squigglies go in reference to where you are. Now I'll keep mentioning in reference to what's executing it or doing the command, because if I were to do set block, it's gonna set it above my head because I'm the one who typed the command. But if the command block does it, just know that the command block is actually typing the command. It's not me. I'm not doing that command. The command block is actually doing the command. That's why it goes above the command block. That is very important when we talk about this last command, which is by far the most powerful command in the game, which is /execute. And what you do with you can do so much with this command. Remember what I just said? How if I type the command, it makes me type it, and it goes above my head. And if this command block does it with /execute, you can completely change that. So now execute. Basically what you're doing is you're executing, as in like with that /execute, I'm no longer don't need to be the one typing the command. So now I can execute for myself, which doesn't make sense. I can set block redstone block. Gonna go above my head. What if we do it on a command block? Because the command block obviously is just gonna keep setting the redstone block. What if we did execute Traizel set block? Will it pop up here above this command block, or will it pop above my head? It's now executing for me. It's not executing for the command block anymore by default. So what's going to happen? It's actually going to pop above my head. And you can change this for anything else. Watch this. What if I did @E? Suddenly, everything in the game is going to have a command block above their head, or a redstone block above their head. Look at these. Look at these guys. They all just died. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. But the point is, it's very powerful. And you can type any command after that. It does not need to be set block. So every entity is going to run the command TP themselves to me. And they all just came to me, just like that. Including me, I teleported myself to myself. Watch this. What if I did not want people with the tag of test? Now with that exclamation mark, it means not. So anything with the tag not test will not be affected. So I'm the only one in the game with the tag of test. If there's another player in the game and I added the tag test to them, they would not be teleported to me when I press this button because they have the tag test. If you're new to commands or if you're experienced, there's always new things you can learn. That's very, very powerful. Okay, so I hope you guys enjoyed the video. That was a lot of information there that I kind of just threw at you guys. I try to make it as simple as possible, and for the people that are new to commands as well as people that are more advanced, that hopefully you found something new that you learned today in this video. If you are new around here, don't forget to subscribe and like the video if you are new. And as always, peace out, everybody.